bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go!
EAGLES, Eagles.
And a good football Friday, football fans. This is your Bird 365 duo, Mac and Mac, McMullen and McDonald, here to hang with you for the next couple hours. As I said at the end of yesterday's show, we got double D's popping out today. That would be DeCecco and Damwich. Our two guests will join us over the next 2 hours. J-Mac don't usually do this, but I'm going to start here today. Going to alert one of our loyal streamers, Billiano Fever, who chimes in from time to time. He's already chimed in again today. I'm going to tell him, yeah, just go ahead and feel free to just sign out, because he's looking forward to both John McMullen and Jody McDonald picking up the pom-poms and cheering for the new Eagle linebacker signing.
Yeah. You might want to find a different show. Yeah.
You can stream right out right now, because we're not going to knock her. We're not going to mock her. We're not going to pull our hair out. And that's something that neither John nor I could do. But we're not just going to, this is like the greatest linebacker ever. Why? Because he signed yesterday with the Philadelphia Eagles. It doesn't work that way with me, and I'm 99% sure it doesn't work that way with John either. We're going to give you our honest opinion. And if our honest opinion is, then we're going to give that to you. We're not just going to stand here on the sidelines and shake our pom-poms because the Eagles made a move. I'm a bigger Barkley fan than John is, the signing. He's a bigger Huff fan signing than I am. I fear that this is Jason Babin part 2. We both like CJGJ coming back, and the fact that the Eagles admitted, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have let him out the door the first time. Good on Howie Roseman. That's one of Howie's strengths. He doesn't let previous decisions affect future decisions. So good on him and the organization for that. Devin White he's a guy. He's a Jag, just a guy. You're gonna
but Jody, he was the 5th overall pick one time.
Don't.
Big name.
You know how I get ticked off about guys being pigeonholed, both positively and negatively for their draft status.
The
a
big
year
name
in,
draft.
2 years in, where you've been out for 5 years. I'm sorry. Where you were drafted becomes completely irrelevant.
This is a perfect example of why everybody defaults to it and assumes and makes excuses and this and that. We got one guy on the stream who said he's been a good linebacker for 4 out of 5 years. He was a good linebacker for 3 stinking games in one of the biggest anomalies in NFL history, their run to the Super Bowl. He played like he was the 5th pick in the draft. He's been terrible in the regular season. And if somebody wants to bring up he was 2nd team All-Pro in whatever year it was, that's a blight on the All-Pro voters. And why yell at Rob Monty? It's not Rob's fault, but he should remove some of those people. He's been an awful linebacker. He hasn't been a good linebacker for 4 of 5 years. He's been an abject failure on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And people, I love the PFF hate when they say a player stinks. When they tell you Lane Johnson is great, they're great. When they tell you Jordan Mailata is great, they're great. And by the way, they're rights. When they say a player's really good, they're rights. And when they say a player's really bad, they're rights. And you can spend the $99 and go get NFL Plus and watch this guy play in any single game. And I recommend you all do that. Now, is he athletic? Tremendously athletic. Might be the most athletic player the Eagles have ever had playing linebacker. His PFF grades, Jody, let me get them for you.
I think
First year, 68 out of 90 as a rookie. His all-pro year, I put that in quotes, 62 out of 83. 21, 79 out of 86. 2022, 74 out of 81. 2023, last season, 80 out of 82. That is consistent poor play. And if you got some conspiracy theory that PFF has got something against Devin White, I don't know what to do. But I'll say this, sit back and watch, because this guy's never in the right spot.
Yeah. And having athletic skills and traits is a good thing. It doesn't always equate to being a good football player in the National Football League. It just doesn't. People get drafted on that. People get talked up on that. But then when you have 5 years, a body of work of 5 years in the National Football League, that not only outweighs, it completely eliminates what kind of an athlete you are. I want to know what kind of a player you are. I don't care how good an athlete you are. A lot of times those two things go hand in hand, but not always. And it hasn't in the case of Devin White. Now, here's what I'll say in defense of the Eagles. They need bodies. They have two linebackers under contract right now, one of which is Nakobe Dean, who we have no idea where he is physically right now. We assume he's going to be good to go for camp and then good to go for the season. And Ben Van Sumeren, who's a nice hustler, who's a pretty good special teams player, who actually played a couple of snaps last year and didn't embarrass himself. He didn't grab the spotlight and say, hey, you guys need to think about using me from the line of scrimmage. It was nothing awe-inspiring. But that's it. They had two linebackers under contract. So they need guys, just bodies. They need people to compete. If Devin White's going to be one of them, okay, fine. I'm just not setting my expectations very high for all the reasons that you just ran down. He has not been a good player. I give him more than 3 games. I give him the last quarter of the season.
Well, you know why he was a second-team All-Pro, actually, Jody? Because he had 9 sacks as a linebacker. That was a second-team All-Pro. And that tells you and I argue. And I'm not trying to pick on you about the sack numbers. Well, if you blitz a guy 100 times, yeah, he's going to get a bunch of sacks. It's really not that relevant. So when people see splash plays and then, they watch the highlights and say, oh, this guy. And then, meanwhile, in the guts of the game, he's getting destroyed in the running game because he's not a very football IQ savvy linebacker. He's not instinctive. He's not in the right spots. He's getting killed in the passing game despite the athleticism because, again, he doesn't have a feel for it. But, yeah, he's athletic. So occasionally he'll make a splash play. And maybe that helps. Maybe that helps because one of the things that stood out about the Eagles defense last year, which we constantly talked about, was the lack of speed on the back end. He's got speed, but then again, so is Ben Van Sumeren. Ben's got a tremendous athletic profile, but he's very raw. And he wasn't the 5th overall pick in the draft. But, think about that, Jody. If you're the 5th overall pick in the draft and you've had 4 or 5 good seasons, as one of the streamer comments says, and you're ready to get your second contract, you're past your 5th-year option, you don't think you're going to cash in this league, even at a position of, look at Patrick Queen, had a good year, Probably got a little bit less than he wanted, but it's still pretty significant at the top of the market.
Mm-hmm.
Is this guy's past the first wave. He's signing a 1-year prove-it deal. What does that tell you? With a
And
tremendous, and by the way, when you see this deal, 1 year 7.5, it ain't 1 year 7.5, it's 1 year up to 7.5 million. What does that tell you?
he's got to earn it, and I'm not sure that he will. Don't know what the incentives are going to be. The devil is in the details, and we'll have to wait for those details. Because they had a desperate need for linebacker, and he is a starting linebacker in the league. I'm not going to knock the signing. I'm just going to shrug my shoulders and go, okay, you got work to do still at linebacker. I was actually kind of surprised that they would give. And again, we don't know the money. It's a 1-year deal. I thought that they'd probably retain Zach Cunningham, which they still could. They can still sign Cunningham. Cunningham's still out there, with the fact that how he went out of the way to kind of single him out after the season was over and done with, and give him credit for his level of play last year. I thought they'd probably go there rather than reach for a guy like Devin White. And again, I don't want to just belittle it to the point of this is a massive mistake, because they needed linebackers. Do I think we're going to be here on Birds 365, week 6 of the season, going, yeah, Devin White has been a major contributor to the first 5 games? No, I'm betting against that. I just don't think he's that good a football player. And one thing that scares me about the Eagles so far this offseason, and how he's been aggressive, and he's filled holes. Has he filled them completely? We don't know yet, but he has signed guys at positions that they have needs. The thing that, and John, you like to touch on this, and it's a line that you use, and I borrowed many a time. Nobody worries about stopping the run until they need to stop the run. And the Philadelphia Eagles, with their signings this year, their 3 big defensive signings in Huff, CJ, GJ, and now Devin White, aren't worried about stopping the run. They're, in my book, all undervalued players as far as stopping the run goes. Jordan Davis better be like the second coming of, well, at least Devin White did play with the kid down in Tampa, who's probably the best run-stopping defensive tackle in the National Football League.
Yeah, that's not, by the way, that's not a good sign either. When you're not good against the run, and oh, by the way, you're playing behind Vita Vea,
right?
That even exacerbates it even further. But yeah, if you want to look at his grade, as I said, overall 80 of 82, pass rusher is 38th, coverage he was 51st, run defense 82nd.
So he's well below average in the run. CJGJ's, he's aggressive, but his number one skill is ball hawking, and he does come up with turnovers. He does come up with interceptions. I would not call him a run-stopping safety. And I have my issues about Bryce Huff and the fact that he's a one-dimensional, one-directional player. Into the backfield, speed pass rushing. He's not going to be stalwart against the run. The Eagles, if I'm another team's offensive coordinator and I'm looking through the offseason moves and looking at the other team's rosters, how am I going to beat this team? Yeah, the first thing I'm thinking, if I'm the Redskins or the Cowboys, or not that the Redskins or the Cowboys, Commanders or the Cowboys have done anything to upgrade their running game, but I'm going to be looking to run the football against the Eagles as of next year.
Yeah, the Eagles would like that, believe it or not. But I hear what you're saying. And, if we fast forward to December and it's the playoffs, I probably even agree with you. But the Eagles would probably like that, at least early in the season, because they have their issues. Let's be honest. They have their issues in the secondary and in the back seven. And if they're like, oh, you're going to run the football, we'll take that. And it's that mentality of smaller margin of error. Great. If you're taking a lead like that one Washington game where they won, where they're averaging 3.3 yards per carry, but it was literally 3 yards, and then first down, and they find a way to keep the ball for the entire game. There might be that anomaly of a game, but the Eagles would actually prefer that, maybe even invite that to try to keep their deficiencies in the secondary on the back end, and thinking, hey, we got Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, and now we got Saquon Barkley. We're going to outscore people, so we can give up a few points. That would be my guess. They would invite that. But where I think Huff is different, Huff is a projection. I mean, he's a projection, and they might get it wrong. They might get it right. But he's never been asked to do. I mean, he was a one-trick pony with the Jets. As you know, Jody, he was a situational pass rusher, played 440 snaps. His job was to go after the quarterback, and he did a good job with that. His pressure percentages are off the charts, near the top of the league. Now the Eagles are saying, we think he could be a full-time player. Are they right? Maybe. Are they wrong? Maybe. But that's the projection. They think he's going to be able to be a full-time player and hold his water in the run game and all that kind of stuff. This guy's not a projection. He's played a lot of football and given a lot of opportunities, and he has been consistently poor in that aspect of the game. I know Zander had it yesterday. What were the numbers against the run, Zander? If you can pop them in the chat. He's been significant. He's been bottom 5 run defender in the NFL at linebacker for year after year after, consistently poor. Right. You let him go in the pass rush because of his athleticism. He's going to stand out occasionally in that aspect of it. But again, we're talking about the Big Fangio scheme. How is that a fit? Now they're going to start blitzing off-ball linebackers like they're Wink Martindale or Brian Flores. I mean, this is weird. And my assumption is when I get to talk to Howie down the road at some point, it'll be, we tried to get insert name. It didn't work out. Those guys went in a different direction. We had to add somebody, as you mentioned, and they added Devin White. And the positives are tremendously athletic. So, if they can harness that, Godspeed.
That's nice for like a superstars competition. I'm worried about what he's going to do on the football field on Sundays. I don't care how athletic he grades out in things not above and beyond or around football. And the guy I think they missed out on, I said it here on Birds 365, a guy I thought they should make a play for, and I thought signed a relatively inexpensive contract, was Willie Gay, a guy who only got 8 tackles in the Super Bowl against the Eagles 2 years ago. The Chiefs decided not to make him a good enough offer. He tested free agency and ended up signing for under $5 million. The deal being reported as a 1 year, somewhere between 3 and 5, 3 up to 5, kind of like White's contract is up to $7.5 million, which means it's not going to be 7 to start. On paper, he's going to have to earn that, which John and I, we're just projecting here. Don't think he's going to get to, because don't think he's going to come in here and star, but we shall see. If he does, I'll eat my words. Willie Gay is a better linebacker than Devin White. So if their contracts are anywhere near close, and I think White's will come in at heavier than Gay's contract, that's how he misjudging the market. That he thought that he could go somewhere else and get somewhere else. And by that time, Gay was off the board, having gone to New Orleans. So I don't think he got the best of the linebacker market. He got a jag. He got just a guy today with the signing of Devin White. That's my opinion. That's John's opinion. We'll add a third opinion. Coming up next is our buddy Andrew DiCecco from InsideTheBirds.com and podcast. Oh, I can see him smiling. I can see it. I think he's a big Devin White fan. No,
I'm going to guess Andrew's on our side, but I don't want to muddy the water, so we'll let him speak.
Don't want to put words in his mouth. We'll let him do that himself. Andrew DiCecco, InsideTheBirds.com. Up next here on Birds 365.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Birds 365 for those of you who are still streaming, because we got a whole bunch of guys that I guarantee have already checked out. We're terrible. We're awful. How can we say
we're
this?
Negative. We're always negative. Blah, blah, blah.
Sorry, not chilly. I don't get.
Let me lie to you. Let me lie to you to make you feel better.
We don't get paid to shake the pom-poms. When the Eagles do well, we give them a ton of credit. When we question their moves, we question their moves. Now we've set up Andrew DiCecco to be the hero. He can come in here and go, yes, this is the greatest signing in Philadelphia Eagle history. Are you going to do such, Andrew?
I don't like the signing. I mean, look, it's our job to be objective.
Shocking. I'm shocked, Andrew.
It's our job to be objective here. And look, what you've seen on tape from Devin White in past years has been a lot of inconsistency. He's a very volatile player. But you can't deny the athleticism. But I'll also say that he overruns a lot of plays. He's been very inconsistent season to season. But if you're looking at it, glass half full, 26 years old, former All-Pro, maybe in a new scenery, change of scenery is what he needs to get back on track. But and look, he's better than what they have, but he's only marginally better than Zach Cunningham, in my opinion, who is still out there. But we'll have to see. Look, they addressed it, and they still have some questions.
Yeah, now it's up to Vic Fangio, so a lot on Vic. And I don't even know in theory if he's a fit for Vic Fangio, because the one thing he's done well, and you mentioned that All-Pro nod, and let's be honest, that's a blight on the All-Pro voters. It was because he had 9 sacks. Well, he's not going to be. That's what he can do, right? Go straight ahead, burst with that athleticism, get in the backfield, chase the quarterback. That's not what this scheme is, Andrew, with an all-ball linebacker. So
look, Nick Morrow got 3 sacks last year as well. I mean,
Yeah, well, exactly. And if you look at Nick Morrow,
by the way, did he get all those sacks in one game? Am I right?
Yeah, against Washington. Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, one game. That was a great game, Nick. Unfortunately, he didn't do it the next week. Sorry to interrupt.
Hey,
I was happy to see him sign with Buffalo, by the way. Good guy, and he's going to be in a role that better suits his skill set.
Yeah, I thought Nick Morrow was underrated. People kill me for that. I don't think he was terrible last season by any stretch of the imagination. And people would say Zach Cunningham was the Eagles' best linebacker. I think Nick Morrow was.
I'm with you there. And I mean, you and me might be alone on that island, John, and you might see some of the subscribers start to log off.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've already done that with our take on Devin White. But my issue with Nick Morrow, when he was bad, he was really bad. And there were these huge extremes. He had some really good games, some really bad games, and you want a little bit more consistency from game to game. They needed an upgrade. There's no question about it. And I imagine at some point down the road, Andrew, when we get a little bit more time with Howie Roseman, I'm going to hear about, or at least talk to some people behind the scenes. We're going to get theories that maybe they tried to sign some other guys. I had speculated Josie Jewell. He had a history with Vic Fangio. Aziz Al-Shaair, who had a history with Bobby King, the new linebackers coach. I thought Blake Cashman would have been a great signing.
They were interested in Blake Cashman. Yeah. That was a name that I put out there.
Yeah. A bunch of these guys that potentially, Jody mentioned Willie Gay, Tyrell Dodson, who signed yesterday as well, who came in Buffalo and played well in place of Matt Milano. And these would have been all mid-range contract guys. I forget. I guess Cashman got a decent deal. Al-Shaair got a decent deal. But boy, there's a host of names. Even Jordan Hicks. I wouldn't have minded Jordan Hicks back. What about a Jordan Hicks reunion? There was a ton of names out there, mid-level. I mean, older player, obviously, Jordan at this stage, but he was still competent last year. The Eagles have proven, hey, we're going for it again. They think they're a contender. I don't know, man. There's 100 different ways they could have gone. I always laud the Eagles for making good decisions. Jody knows this. I generally understand their decision-making. This is twice where I don't understand their decision-making.
I think you have to look at the free agent market, the well drying up, and they were running out of options, and they took the one that they probably felt was the most enticing or the most
upside.
Yeah, the most upside that they thought that they were going to be able to maybe reconfigure and get them on correct their course and maybe get the most out of them. But I mean, I always thought it was going to be through the draft. When I saw linebackers start going in free agency, I thought that was going to be a position that they looked to address during the draft. Maybe an Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M is a phenomenal player. I know I hear a lot of folks talk about
Trotter,
but that's name appeal only. I think that when you go ahead and watch his play, you can't like him and then not like Nakobe Dean. They're very similar in stature, and they do a lot of the same things, at least at the collegiate level. But I would think that you're going to have to get one in the draft as well.
And they still could, by the way. They still could. They didn't pay Devin. They're not locked into Devin White, so that could still be an option.
And I'm also a Van Sumeren guy as far as a depth player. I think that he has the traits to be able to contribute in sub packages and things of that nature. And the Eagles have invested in his development, so I think he's going to be here as a depth linebacker as well.
I'll tell you this right now. If the Eagles take Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in the second round, he will start next to Nakobe D. He will beat out Devin White. I don't care how small he is. And yes, I have concerns that he and Nakobe are similar type players. He's better player than Devin White. Mm-hmm. You said you wouldn't draft him if the linebacker's off the board?
No.
You think he's a non-prospect?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he's more of what they already have in terms of skill set and body type. I would get somebody with a little bit more athleticism that could range sideline to sideline. And
there aren't too many guys in this draft that are more athletic than Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
I mean, Edgerrin Cooper, Jody, is the player.
That's the one. You're going to use a first-round pick? He'll be gone by the time the second-round pick.
I don't know that he's going to go in the first round. I think that he can go anywhere from early second to maybe where the Eagles sit at 50, and you could probably trade up and get him if they like him. So, I mean, that's a player to keep an eye on. He's supremely more talented than Trotter Jr., and so is Peyton Wilson for that matter.
All right, so we talked about Devin White and ran some people off. So let's get some people back and some of the other signings. Saquon Barkley, we haven't talked to you, Andrew, specifically, so want to get your thoughts on the big three, so to speak: Saquon Barkley plus Bryce Huff and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Let's rank them from Andrew Jacheko's perspective. Who are the best fits? Who do you think make the most sense of those three, and just put them in order?
Gardner-Johnson would be one for me. Then it would be Bryce Huff and then Saquon, if we're going the big three there. Gardner-Johnson, look, going into free agency, John, you and I have talked about this. I've written about this and talked about it in various platforms. The safety position is the most crucial to the Eagles' offseason plans. It should have been a top priority, given the demands placed on the position under Vic Fangio's defense. You're getting a versatile player who can also play nickel, has a lot of turnover production, which the Eagles haven't had much of last season. He brings a ton of swagger and energy to the back end. So I think that made a lot of sense from a reunion and financial standpoint. Based on when we see the numbers, it looks like it's going to be very favorable for the Eagles. And I would also say that Bryce Huff really leans into Howie Roseman and the Eagles' longstanding philosophy of building through the trenches and fortifying the pass rush. And you also have to look at Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat with their futures uncertain. You knew that they were going to address it. And so him being the first name announced was not really a shock to me at all.
Is he a $17 million a year player?
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, this is someone that, to be fair, has only played 42% of the snaps last season. Now, he maximizes opportunities in his 480 snaps, but you're betting on a projection. This is the Eagles believe they're getting an ascending player, and this is a sign of things to come. But we have to see if he's able to handle an expanded workload, because they're sure as heck paying him as someone that they believe can.
Yeah, and that's the key. I mean, that to me is an Eagles move, and that's why he's at the top of my list, Bryce Huff. That's an Eagles move. That's what they do. They, and you win some, you lose some, but that's a projection. That's a young ascending player. And that's typically what they want to do. And then the Band-Aid types that have worked in the past, we know, you go back to the Super Bowl season, LeGarrette Blunts, the Chris Longs,
Corey Graham,
Patrick Robinson, on and on. But they went a little bit farther. Maybe that could be Devin White. Maybe they went a little bit farther with Saquon, and just the valuation of the position, Andrew, complete sea change. Even though the Eagles are trying to spend an hour, well, we spent on LaShawn McCoy. That was Howie 1.0. In fact, Howie Roseman 2.0, the successful Howie Roseman. And I wrote this on SI. He's part of the big reason why the league as a whole has devalued the running back position, because he's built 2 Super Bowl rosters with that philosophy. Now, the market, I think, was better for running backs than we all thought, but there still was this shuffling of chairs. I think 38% of the league changed running backs, which tells you they think it's a revolving door. Why did the Eagles stop the revolving door and say, this guy's special?
Well, it's interesting because I believe if you go back and look at Howie Roseman's history with running backs, you mentioned LaShawn McCoy, but they were also all in on Christian McCaffrey back in 2017, and he would be an Eagle if they had the opportunity to select him. So Howie's proven that he's willing to go to great lengths to acquire high-end talent and elite talent that he envisions big-time production. He obviously Saquon, he's depicting him to be that kind of guy and be a game changer for this offense, a 3-down player who can catch the football, pass protect, and be a dynamic threat, and also alleviate some of the responsibilities from Jalen Hurts, from absorbing some of those hits on the short yardage plays and just being a good outlet underneath. So I think they think that they're getting a player who's going to be among the top 2 or 3 players at that position this season.
Let me touch on one of the aspects you just brought up about outlet underneath, a.k.a. Saquon Barkley catching the ball coming out of the backfield. Done it quite well for the New York Giants. But the Eagles haven't been good at it. And I'm just demarking from the time that Jalen Hurts took over as their starting quarterback. So for the last 3 years, I would say Eagles throwing the ball to guys out of the backfield has been almost a non-entity. It started with Shane Steichen, went to Brian Johnson. It's been Sirianni the whole time, and the quarterback's been the same. Why do you think that hasn't been I would not even come close to calling it a weapon for the Philadelphia Eagles? Why do you think that's been the case?
Well, the quarterback is averse to doing it. He finds other ways to make up those short dump offs by running the football and doing things of that nature. Now, that's going to have to change under this new regime. Kellen Moore and quarterbacks coach Doug Nussmeier, I would assume, is going to really hone in on that to, hey, hang in there in the pocket, take what the defense is giving you. And you have these really dynamic receivers that you can utilize and make life easier on yourself. So I have to think that this is going to be something that they drill into Jalen this offseason and going into training camp and make it a focal point of not a focal point, make it something that he's mindful of going into the season, because they misutilized DeAndre Swift. There's a lot of folks out there that are, unfairly malign DeAndre Swift and dismissed this season, but he should have been utilized more as a pass catcher. For sure.
Is that devil's advocate, Andrew? Is that a good thing? Because Jalen's been pretty successful. I think his DNA as a player is, okay, if my top progressions aren't there, I'm going to take off, run the football, and by and large, it's more effective than dumping it off to a running back, no matter who that running back is. Is that something you should try to beat out of him or try to accentuate? Because I've argued it's something you should try to accentuate and make Jalen Hurts the best Jalen Hurts he can be, versus trying to pound the square peg in the round hole just because we have to get a running back involved in the passing game.
I think it's one of those things where you say, Jalen, pick your spots. And we don't want to take that element of your game away from you, but throwing the ball to your running backs and allowing them to make plays in space and taking advantage of their dynamic skill set creates a new dimension to the offense. And it's ultimately going to make your job easier as a quarterback to facilitate the ball to these players and open up the playbook in its entirety. So I think that when you sort of convey that message to Jalen and show it to him, give it to him in that perspective, that might alter his perception and maybe change some of his thought process and how he goes about it. But I think that you can balance the two. It's not either or, but you certainly don't want to take away what's made him such a special player with his legs and those type of traits.
I think we can all agree Jalen just wasn't as good at running the football this past year as he was the year previous. He's just a better runner, whether it was because the Eagles told him, we don't want you to take as many chances. He wasn't as dynamic and or risk-taking when he did it. He's still one of the better running quarterbacks in the league, but he wasn't like head and shoulders above everybody else like he was in the Super Bowl year. So that if he's doing it next year, that's what I think you're taking out of the offense. I don't think you're taking the 2022 Jalen Hurts out of the offense in 2024 if you're throwing it to Saquon Barkley. All right. Another move that came down yesterday. How are the Eagles going to get by without Jack Stoll? A major loss for the Philadelphia Eagles. I
love Jack Stoll. They wanted Jack back too. Jack's a great guy.
John and I, all they had to do was throw a $3 million tag on him. So nobody. They watched him walk out the door. Nobody wanted him back.
By the way, that's a trend in the NFL. I think there were 8 restricted free agents who got tendered in the entire league this year. Nobody tenders restricted free agents anymore. And that the ones who do get tendered are really good players. Jack's a role player. He's not getting, that's not rare.
Jack was never going to get tagged. I mean, I believe the Eagles wanted him back, but it would be on their terms in an abbreviated deal on a 1-year deal. But I was always interested to see if Jack was going to generate interest on the market from a team that had some familiarity with him, such as Shane Steichen with Indy, Jonathan Gannon with the Cardinals. Instead, he goes to a division rival here, and maybe
plenty of familiarity there. They know with Jack.
I like Jack Stoll. I've talked to him plenty of times. He's a character. I thought he was someone who contributed a role on game day that a lot of the public eye sort of missed in terms of his blocking ability. But look, the Eagles need to upgrade at the number 2 tight end spot. It's clear as day. And it's ultimately going to help the middle of the field and Jalen Hurts getting him another safety valve. And, best of luck to Jack. Hopefully he gets a chance to contribute more offensively.
They seem to want, Andrew, they want a pass catcher. And why? I mean, Jack has been, they they have Grant Calcaterra. They traded for Albert Okwegbanon and re-signed him because Howie traded for him because he didn't do anything. And Jack held those guys off.
Right.
Why?
And look, you're not going to, in all likelihood, and you guys know this, you're not going to draft a player on, let's say, day 3 of the draft that's going to come right in and give you more production than Jack stole. And when you're a team with a Super Bowl window that's still open, you need players that are going to be able to hit the ground running. And you have somebody like Jack who is really good at blocking, which the Eagles don't really have anybody equipped to do that. So they really need to address number 2 spot. And I think that probably the best way to do it would be the draft. But you can't expect them to come right in and be able to pick up where he left off.
Yeah, they're going to pick another tight end exactly where they picked Grant Calcaterra, and he's going to be that much better than Grant Calcaterra.
I think they're going to. I think this is the last. I think they're going to move on from Grant Calcaterra at this point.
Well, this is put up or shut up. I think year for Grant Calcaterra and Alberto as well. So Albert will get one more chance. I'm sure they'll bring in a couple bodies. EJ Jenkins is there. Don't forget EJ in the futures contract realm. They always have a futures guy.
Noah Tungiai still around.
Noah Tungiai. Well done. And getting Tungiai correct. That's Andrew. Andrew's locked in, baby. Nobody gets Noah's last name right. So well done. Let's talk tampering. Let's tamper. Jody and I talked about it yesterday, and I kind of dismissed it. And I still dismiss it to a certain point. Saquon Barkley answered it. But I did talk to some people down there yesterday, and they brought up the big situation, leaving Miami. And this might be a compilation issue from the league's perspective, saying, we all know there's tampering. 32 teams tamper. I got all these, Eagles fans, they're killing us for saying they want to believe Devin White's great. They want to believe their team's always right. Jonathan Gannon tamper. We deserve that pick. I got a lot of, Chicago tamper. They signed DeAndre Swift. Look, everybody tampers, including your favorite team, listeners. They tamper all the time. Everybody lays the foundation for these deals in Indy. And it's sort of this detente through mutually assured destruction. I described it in political terms. Everybody does it. The league wants to say it's wink, wink. Let's ignore it. And then Mike Florio, God bless himself, whether he hates Howie Roseman or not, brings something up that's pretty obvious. By the way, Kirk Cousins threw the Atlanta Falcons under the bus. I mean, he flat out said it. They tampered in his own press conference. So we'll see how that shakes out. But from the Eagles' perspective, they have this telephone defense, like the old telephone game. Saquon told James Franklin, but he misheard it, and that now Saquon's up there saying no. But it might be the compilation thing, because everybody knows the Eagles were winking with Vic Fangio to get him back from Miami. And the league might say, guys, you're being too brazen with this. Tone it down. You think it's a possibility the Eagles get dinged for any of this?
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. This is a team that the league may want to look to make an example out of. The Falcons, of course, with Kirk Cousins, didn't even try to hide it there. Just throw them right under the bus, as you said. So, look, when you're a preeminent team like the Eagles are, and you have a lot of success, you just brought in a premier player, and there's some questions about it. James Franklin speaking out of school there, and they're going to look into it for sure. And I think that they're going to look to make an example. So it wouldn't surprise me if they are docked.
And here's my take on the whole tampering thing, because John's right. I believe 32 out of 32 teams.
You can't just
be good at it. If you're going to tamper, be good at it.
I would say
don't leave the door open that someone like Mike Florio can find a thread and pull on it, and then the whole thing comes down.
I would say
you get caught, you pay a price.
I would say even it's not even be good. It's not be obvious about it. It's don't be obvious about it. Don't. And the Barkley stuff isn't their fault. I mean, James Franklin's talking. It's like, who knows from James?
Howie tampered.
Well, no,
and they got caught.
Well, I still believe Howie's been doing this too long to be calling Saquon Barkley himself during the negotiation. Yeah. I'd be shocked if that were the case. I'd still be shocked if that were the case.
Me too.
But, we talked to Pat Leonard, and I'm thinking about it, and Pat knows Saquon very well. And he was at the forefront of breaking the Eagles' interest. And even some of the things and Southern New York reporters, well, the Eagles have been interested in Saquon Barkley for over a year. Saquon knows it. All this back channeling. It's almost like it's part of the industry, the wink, wink part of it.
Sure.
But it might be too obvious. And that's what I'm saying. It might be too obvious from the league's perspective. And it might be slapping the wrist, say, tone it down is kind of my perception now. And I would still, if I were betting, I would still say nothing's going to happen because the league doesn't want a spotlight on it. They want it to go away.
If they wanted to go away, they could have just buried their head in the sand yesterday, John. And they came out and said they're going to have a formal investigation. That's not wanting it.
Well, I talked to McCarthy, and he said this is common. We look into this stuff all the time. It's not out of the realm of. So their stamp could potentially be, oh, we checked into it. Let's move on. Right. I still think that's the more likely.
How often does that happen during a year, John? A guy from the NFL offices can say it's commonplace. It doesn't get out into the public.
Florio.
What's the difference?
Florio changed it a little bit differently, and I think Atlanta was more interesting because, as far as I know, that wasn't brought up by anybody. So that was league. Sort of issued, league mandated. We're looking into that. They didn't need to be, hey, Mike Florio, look over here. They didn't need that because Kirk, as I said, spoke out of school at his introductory press conference. By the way, that's a bad job by the Atlanta PR staff. You gotta alert the guys. A very poor job. So all of this factors into it, but I do. People say I don't like to admit I'm wrong. Blah blah blah. I don't give a shit if I'm wrong. Yesterday, I said no way. There's a big deal with it. And the thing that changed my mind a little bit is the Fangio stuff, because there are people evidently upset in the league that say the Eagles keep bringing up these issues, and they're freaking tampering. And then you got teams saying this happened. Team complains about everything, and they're out here doing this. Why aren't you doing something to them? That's the mentality we have going on here.
Yeah, a lot of finger pointing.
Yeah, exactly.
And guess what? They're not wrong, because the Eagles did beat the drum with the Gannon thing. Yeah, they jumped right in and said, yeah.
And going all the way back, by the way, I was also reminded all the way back to the McMullen thing. That was Eagles generated. They were upset that Andy Reid contacted, and this is way back. But, these things die hard when it comes to the NFL. Everybody holds a grudge. So we'll see how it shakes out. But it is an interesting story. I think the Franklin part of it, though, you can just gloss over with the telephone defense. Oh, he just misheard me. And that's what Saquon did.
Yeah, the Eagles are having out there. Atlanta doesn't. The player just sat right there at the podium and just timed you out.
Yeah. If I were a betting man saying only one of the two teams is going to lose a draft pick, I'd bet on Atlanta. They're in a much worse position right about now
that was
than the Eagles
brutal.
are. Yeah. Not good for them. Who's going to be the backup quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles this year, big guy?
Great question. And, I know that the Eagles do like Tanner McKee, and he's a great story of development, but he's a late round pick. And when you're a team, Jody, as you know, that has a Super Bowl window that's open, and knowing the franchise philosophy and how they prioritize the backup quarterback position, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to sort of be able to ascertain that they're going to look into adding a experienced player at the position to just be able to navigate the ship should Jalen Hurts have to miss any time. And you don't want them to miss a beat. So to me, looking at the free agent market, Tyler Huntley makes a lot of sense. That's a name I've gone with since the beginning. And Easton Stick has some experience with Kellen Moore. I know that you don't like Easton Stick, but I'm gonna say that
always gets.
I'm gonna say that name anyway. And then you may look to the trade market, and this is a name that you have to see what they're looking for, but maybe you check in and you see about Justin Fields and what they're looking for, because you'd be hard pressed to find a better backup across the league if you're able to bring him in here. But a lot of things would obviously have to work for that to even be able to materialize.
Yeah, that's I've heard both sides of that fence. Like, oh, you can't bring in Justin Fields because of the psyche of Jalen Hurts, like he's Carson Wentz back in the. I just don't think he's that type of guy. Number one, he's not going to be affected by Justin Fields coming in here. And also the fact that he could be a good backup quarterback. I don't know if that's
and also imagine if should another quarterback go down in training camp, what you'd be able to yield in return if you were able to flip him.
Yeah, that's fair. But I think that's why the Bears should just hang on to him and hope for the Sam Bradford situation. And somebody has an injury in training camp, and then all of a sudden the value comes back. If I'm the Bears, I'm just holding on to him and say,
yeah, they're not going to – I don't think that at this point, John, they're going to get anything of substance. You start to see all these quarterback positions get filled across the league, and you have to wonder what that means for him. And I don't know if you're willing to part for adequate compensation that aligns with what the Eagles are willing to part with. Maybe that's something you want to investigate. But look, they looked at in the Joe Flacco. Flacco ended up with the Colts with Shane Steichen. So they're obviously targeting that backup quarterback market to bring in someone with experience to back up Hurts. Just a matter of who it's going to be. And for me, I think the best fit would be Tyler Huntley.
Well, I'll give you a guy, if not Justin Fields. And I think I'm with John. I don't think that it would unnerve Jalen to the point where he couldn't play. And I like Justin Fields a lot. And I think he'd be a phenomenal asset to have in case Jalen breaks his leg in week number 3. But I'm also with John in that I think the Bears are going to end up holding on to him. The New York Jets are looking to move the pick that they took in the same year that Justin Fields came off the board at number 2. And John, if he's told me once, he's told me 100 times, they really like Zach Wilson. If they thought they could have gotten to a position to draft Zach Wilson, they were. He is readily available from the New York Jets.
For a reason,
they won't be asking for the same compensation that Chicago will for Justin Fields. Zach Wilson is the backup quarterback for the Eagles there, Andrew?
Oh, Zach Wilson is horrendous. I just didn't like him coming out of BYU. He showed me who he was when they played Coastal Carolina that year, and he faced someone, a team of a higher caliber. I didn't like his attitude. I didn't like his overall game. Didn't think it was going to translate to the pro level.
Like his face, Andrew.
Yeah, it's just everything. That's stepbrother scene. It's like, no, it's your face. There's nothing you can do to change it. But it was. I just didn't like his overall game, nor did I think it would translate to the pro level. And he doesn't have any leadership qualities. That would be a disaster in my opinion.
On that one, you and I are in accord. Never
what
liked
about, that. Sam Darnold's going to get another chance. Your other Jets failure of a quarterback. What did you think of Sam Darnold back in the day, Andrew, as a draftnik?
I wasn't a huge fan, but I liked his game much more than I like Zach Wilson. So if we're looking at it in terms of Jets quarterbacks. I thought he had a limited ceiling, like a limited upside, but I thought that he was certainly going to be more competent and have a better career than what he's had and not be the journeyman quarterback that he is right now. But, I think he's a perfect backup quarterback. I think Andy Dalton would be a really good backup quarterback.
Yeah, the Eagles were looking into Andy Dalton last season. I'm surprised he hasn't signed, has he, Andy?
I think he's still under contract.
Is he? He's still under contract? He's always 1 year. I'm shocked he got a
Ryan Tannehill is another name that's still out there. So
at Andrew DeCecco, make sure you follow Andrew on X, Twitter, InsideTheBirds.com does a tremendous job there. 97.5 The Fanatic. You had to run down there to go on. Doing a good job over there.
I missed Zach Bond yesterday, man.
Yeah, you missed Zach Bond. Wide receiver 3 we haven't gotten into. Now, I was made aware yesterday. I knew this, that Devontae Parker was signed. aging player. Again, weird. Eagles are doing now. They didn't give him anything. They're paying him the veteran minimum, some offset language. He gets money from the Patriots. He had the worst separation in the NFL, according to Next Gen Stats, last season. Just could not separate. I was made aware yesterday. Oh, he's had the worst separation in the league for 4 consecutive seasons. Four consecutive seasons. Why the hell are the Eagles bringing in Devontae Parker?
I think you like the former first round pedigree. You maybe think that you can get something out of him in a complimentary role, given AJ and Devontae there. He's a go up and get it receiver. Doesn't create much separation, but maybe you're thinking red zone. He's on the roster bubble to begin with. I think if he struggles with injuries or inconsistencies in training camp, he's far from a lock to make the roster. I'm just looking at it from an upside perspective. I don't really see a whole lot there. I think they'd be better suited drafting a wide receiver and also seeing what you have in some of the future signings, like a Joseph Ngata, who I recently spoke with.
They got like 4 guys they signed.
Yeah, there's a lot of younger players that I think would be better equipped to do that. And they also may find another player in free agency that turns out to be better. Remember when they found the Zacchaeus, it was later in the second or third wave. Yeah. So
what about KJ Osborne? He's still out
there. That was the name I wrote about. KJ Osborne and Jalen Guyton. Jalen Guyton's another guy with familiarity of Kellen Moore with some speed that could be a vertical slot. And KJ Osborne to me is super underrated. And I think I could see him flourishing in this offense, not having to be a focal point, obviously being a complementary player and working over the middle and having some burst after the catch as well.
And if the coach has anything to say about it, there's still the possibility they could re-sign Quez, because Quez is elite.
That's your guy, man.
That's Nick's guy, not Jody Mack's guy. That's for damn sure. All right, last one for me. We're watching Howie Roseman reconstruct the team and building the roster, and how much are the coordinators getting to have a say here? Before free agency kicked in, we all speculated on, Vic Fangio is going to have a big say about what they do on the defense. Do you feel that's the case? You think CJGJ was a Vic Fangio call? You think Devin White was a Fangio call? I'm not seeing it, at least, and I got no idea. You guys would know better. You're down there. Do you believe Fangio's fingerprints are on the Eagles' defensive moves this offseason?
In terms of position selection, yes. I think when he took the job, I would almost assure you that he said, look, what you had last year at these 2 positions aren't acceptable, and I need an upgrade in both of these areas to be able to effectively execute my vision. Now, and the Eagles could just see that as, okay, I'll find a player for you that, works with our budget. And Gardner Johnson has the familiarity and the ball skills and the versatility, which you like. And Devin White, of all the players that were remaining at the linebacker position, has some upside there. But I think that, that they definitely said, look, you have to, I know these aren't areas that maybe you prioritize, but that's going to have to change if you want me on board and you want this defense to run the way that I see it through my eyes.
All right. I lied. I got one more for you. If we had to put a percentage today, 0 obviously to 100, how likely is Devin White the starting weak side linebacker opposite Nakobe Dean? You still think it's over 50, less than 50? You still 60. Think it's 60, 60,
yeah.
I like that.
I think they're going to draft a player and he's going to give him a run for his money. And I think Devin White's going to could end up being the number 3 linebacker.
What about Ben Vance? You mentioned him before. Give me. Is there any chance that he could show up in training camp and say, I'm just beating out this guy?
BVS is my guy. You know that. He's super athletic. I thought that when
Devin White.
But let me finish. In preseason, he was a player that lacked instincts, and he was very well aware of that. He was an athlete that was sort of getting nurtured on the practice squad. And then when he got a chance to play linebacker, in the early going, he'd look like he was a fish out of water. But I thought that when he started on Christmas Day, and other people have watched the tape as well and sort of confirmed what my initial thought was, is that he really did some good things there and impressed and had probably the best single game performance of any Eagles linebacker last season, including one Greg Cosell, who saw that. He played it as good as any linebacker. So Zach Cunningham's best game was equivalent to what you saw from Van Sumeren. And I thought he showed noticeable improvement in instincts. and his athleticism was apparent in filling the holes, and he plays with a lot of urgency. So, look, he's a player that the Eagles have invested in terms of development, and he's going to get an opportunity to carve out a rotational role here, I would imagine, a situational role. He's going to be here, so.
And he'll, if nothing else, he'll probably be one of their key special team contributors. I'm in agreement with you. I think he's going to be on the roster. How much he's going to steal a job from not shouldn't take much. The bar's not real high to take it away from Devin White.
Take it, young player. Take it. Why not? Throw Ben out there. Throw him in the deep end.
Let's see what you got, and if nothing else, he can be a good 4 or 5 for you, and step in certain situations, and maybe you like his athleticism, and he can do something for you.
We shall see. Andrew, always a pleasure, buddy. Appreciate you coming on today. Thanks, pal. We're going to talk to you plenty leading up to the draft.
No doubt.
I know you're all over the draft. We'll get you back on soon enough. Thanks, bud.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
That is Andrew DeCecco from InsideTheBirds.com, both the website and their podcast. Birds fans, have I got a deal for you? Here's your chance to save up to 40% on your car insurance right now for one of JAKIB Sports' great partners. Here's what you need to do. Call managing partner, either Jim or Fran, and tell them you're a friend of JAKIB Sports and Birds 365.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, Managing Partner at Del Val Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today, and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES.
Eagles.
You got your Mac guys here on Birds 365. Love having Andrew on for one very specific reason. He's got strong opinions, and he's not afraid to give them to you. Doesn't mean I have to agree with him. I think he's woefully overrating Ben Van Zoom. Eagles, Giants, Christmas Day. Were you like walking out of the stadium going, wow, the Eagles have found their new linebacker? That's what he made it sound like. Oh, my God. The best game that any Eagle linebacker had all
I
year?
believe, I'll have to think, he was talking about, well, he said he had a good game, but also Greg Cosell, who's a big film guy, said he had a good game. And I think he held up better than I expected. I do remember saying that. Yeah, that was Ben, when he came in, he at the college level, he didn't play a lot at linebacker, and he was very raw, but very athletic. That was the book on him. And he looked like a fish out of water at first, and he did pick it up pretty quickly. And I think that the hope is there. Certainly, I'm not by any means saying the Eagles could count on him, and say, oh, we're going to go into training camp and pencil in Nakobe Dean and Ben Van Sumeren. But you know what? If this is the best I could do, and remember, the draft is still coming. I still believe the Eagles are going to draft a linebacker at some point. Can they get an edger in Cooper? Probably not. Jeremiah Trotter, as you heard some of the issues from Andrew, maybe a little bit too close to what Nakobe Dean brings from a physical standpoint. Maybe you need a little bit of a different type. The kid from North Carolina, I forget his name offhand. Maybe they can get a player who's, capable of being a first-year starter in the draft, and they could turn in that direction. But if it's going to be Devin White, hey, let him have a chance. Let him see. Maybe he's more instinctive. Maybe he picks it up quicker. Because this guy's, even if it works, he's here for 1 year and then he's gone. And you need more of a long-term answer, obviously. And Ben's under contract as a undrafted free agent, so you got a couple of years to work with. I'm just saying he's going to be here, so it wouldn't hurt to give him a chance. And he's going to be here because of the special teams part of it that you mentioned, Jody. He's already a
very good special teams player.
Yeah,
Eagles.
So he's going to be here. Give him a shot.
I'm all for giving guys a shot, but I'm just not ready to say, oh, he's ready to step in.
I wouldn't say that. But I mean, and again, TJ Edwards got mentioned yesterday at the NovaCare complex because he's good friends with Zach Baum, who signed, and we should have got with. He was introduced yesterday. Another Wisconsin linebacker. Wisconsin's becoming linebacker U, by the way, at the college level. He was a 3rd round pick. Yeah, obviously, TJ Watt, TJ Edwards, Andrew Van Ginkel's from Wisconsin. They all played together. But TJ recommended, still helping the Eagles out, recommended the Eagles to Zach Baum and said, yeah, go sign with them. So we'll see if he can help as well. But I think he's going to be more of an edge guy than a.
I was going to say, how much linebacker is he going to play, or is he going to be their 5th edge guy?
Backup edge guy. Yeah, I that's the feeling I get from talking to him yesterday. I think he's more, but he's been a hybrid. But he kind of took off a little bit. He's a good special teams player as well. But he kind of took off a little bit in New Orleans when they gave him a chance to rush the passer, not at off-ball linebacker. So I kind of get the feeling he's going to be a backup there. But we'll see how that shakes out.
Anything that Saquon Barkley said yesterday that grabbed your attention? I thought he handled it well with what he said about Giants fans. Listen, Tiki Barber aside, appreciate the Giants fans. They made it worthwhile during my time up there, but I'm now home. My kids can spend time with their grandparents. I thought he handled it very well yesterday. There's been a lot of back and forth stuff about Saquon and leaving and tampering and everything else. I thought what I saw of his time in front of the mic, he put himself in a good position.
Yeah, I've only heard good things from everybody about Saquon Barkley as a person, as a leader, that type of thing. And I think you're right. He handled the tampering question well. He handled the Giants question well. And he went back and he said, yeah, I probably could have handled it a little bit better, my exit, because of what he meant to Giants fans. And you saw the reaction.
He let Tiki Barber take him off track. He should have just disregarded the whole Tiki calling him out on New York radio thing.
For all the tampering and all that stuff, the Giants didn't even offer him a contract. So, I mean, I don't know how upset Giants fans can be. They went in a different direction. They wanted to go in a different direction. But fans are fans. Look, I don't get the Eagles thinking about the kid he's a great kid. He's a phenomenal. I think people misconstrue everything if you say something. And I've said pretty consistently, he's a very good player. I haven't even said he's a bad player. I just don't necessarily get the fit and why the Eagles went out of their comfort zone, their usual decision making at the position. That's the kind of stuff I question. Everything else, I mean, he's top of the line when it comes to being a person, being a leader, being in the locker room. And I joked to him because Pat told us that story about the chess game. So I brought it up with him yesterday after I said, I was talking about to gauge his competitiveness, my Nick Sirianni, essentially Rochambeau test. And I brought it up and he said, he didn't say when he won, did he? And I said, no, he admitted he lost. Yeah. So you could tell he's very, very competitive person, which is always a positive as well.
And here's what I guarantee will happen with Giant fans up in New York. And I haven't done a New York show in over a year, but did a lot of shows up there over the years. There will be a percentage of Giant fans who will not hear, and the Giants never made him an offer, which is absolutely my belief. Talking to people who know the situation within the situation, they had talked to him over the years about getting a long-term deal done.
Yeah.
They just never did. But after the season ended, they had no conversations about a long-term deal for Saquon Barkley this year. And I'm 99.9% sure of that being a fact. There will be Giant fans that will either choose not to hear that or refuse to hear that. Because I dealt with that here in Philadelphia, John. It's the most famous one that I ever. Reggie White left the Philadelphia Eagles to go to the Green Bay Packers. No, he did not. Norman Brayman pushed him out the door. The Eagles offered Reggie White no long-term contract when he became a free agent. None. They never put a formal offer on the table. So Reggie was going somewhere. Where he was going to go, whether the Lord told him to go to a specific spot and the Lord told him to go to Green Bay, which just happened to be the exact same place that offered him the most money.
Yes.
I don't know.
Well,
I honestly don't know the answer to what moved Reggie. But I know what moved Reggie out of Philadelphia. His name was Norman Brayman. And there were Eagle fans that just refused to believe that. They no, there's no way. It's the fact, Jack. They never made him an offer. And the Giants never made Saquon an offer either. So Giant fans were all ticked off, following Tiki Barber's lead of "you're dead to me." He didn't have a choice. They didn't make him an offer.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I said that Reggie thing. Reggie got a lot of criticism over the years for the God comment. And I'm like, what's the assumption that an all-knowing being wouldn't be fiscally responsible as well? Of course God would tell him to go. So people would say, oh, it just happened to be the most money. Well, of course. God, in theory,
pretty good,
whether you believe in it, he's pretty smart. So he's going to tell you to go to the right spot. You're right. The Eagles, Norman Brim, different era. For people that don't remember, Jeffrey Lurie is a very good owner. So again, I've criticized Jeffrey Lurie a lot this offseason, mainly during the coaching issues. Overall, very, very good NFL owner.
And I do want to get one more thing here before Damo joins us. Paul Damo is going to be coming up in less than 5 minutes. Someone sent me a tweet last night, said, hey, Jody, the Eagles are going to get the Hassan Reddick deal done because look what the Chargers did. The Chargers floated it out there that both Nick Bosa and the exact same thing here is with the Eagles, with Sweat and with Hassan Reddick, that their defensive edge guys are available for trade, and both renegotiated their contract, came back to the Chargers so that they don't get traded. There's a difference between the two situations. Josh Sweat could play the same. Hassan Reddick's not. Both Bosa and Mack didn't live up to their contracts last year. Not that they were bad, but their contracts were so big that they couldn't live up to them. They had already gotten their next payment, and they didn't quite live up to them. So the Chargers had a little leverage, and they used it, and they got him to negotiate back down. Hassan Reddick has overachieved in his contract. He's played above and beyond the $15 million he was supposed to make. You don't think the Charger thing, that's what I responded to tweet. I said, you're comparing apples and oranges. Do you think there is a comp between what the Chargers were able to do, get their two stud defensive edge guys?
More because of the financial. Like Khalil Mack was really good last year. Joey, and he always said Khalil Mack's phenomenal, but he's old, and you know how this league works. I mean, it's just it is what it is, you know. And guys who are that age, they're, you know, the assumption is that the ball is coming. And maybe that assumption is too quick. The old, better to give up on a player a year early than a year late. But Khalil Mack had a tremendous season last year. Joey Bosa, in the case of Hassan Reddick, but they're both paid like top of the line edge rushers. Hassan Reddick's not.
No.
That's the difference.
That's why
he is.
Can't comp him.
Yeah, that's the difference. Hassan is way underpaid for his production level in the NFL. It just is what it is. How many? Is it 2? 4 consecutive seasons over 10 sacks?
4 and
there's some guys. Yeah, there's some guys like Hunter who just got what did Hunter get? 30 million. Like he had an injury.
29
like,
for 2, almost 30. Yeah.
That guy's been really consistent, but he had a couple injuries that derailed his 10 sack streak. But anytime he's healthy, he gets 10. And there's certain guys that get double digits, and they're pretty consistent. But Hassan is just way underpaid. There's no, he just is. And that was his quote last year. He said, "You guys know." And yeah, we do know you're underpaid.
And last thing before we punch Damo up, have you heard anything about any team having any interest or the Eagles talking anything about it? If there have been conversations, got to give both parties credit.
Yeah.
Been very quiet.
Yeah.
That has surprised me. I thought we would have heard something by now. All right, McMullen McDonald here with you on Birds 365. Coming up next, our usual Friday guy, who was nice enough to go a little bit later than he usually does. Damo likes to get up first thing in the morning and attack things. We asked him to push back to 9:20. He said, yeah, if you need me 9:20, I can do that. And he's got the shirt. But the shirt is already wrinkled because he's had it on for an hour now. Paul Damo up next here with us on Birds 365.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at JAKIB. At JAKIB we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give JAKIB a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got Mac and Mac here on Birds 365, and we've got Paul Domwich ready to step in and talk football for the next 25, 30 minutes or so. Damo, the acquisition of Saquon Barkley. Is he the best running back the Philadelphia Eagles have ever had? Because I've heard that from some people. The most talented running back in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles. Yay or nay?
At this point in his career, nay.
It's about talent, though, Tomo. And now with Devin White at linebacker, we got these athletic freaks at running back here in Philadelphia and linebacker. Now Saquon's career has been much steadier than Devin White. Are you enamored by the talent level of each one, or you think it's all about just pedigree, and people keep defaulting the pedigree? And this league moves quickly. I'm amazed everybody goes back to 2018 and 2020. Well, in 2018, he did this. That might as well be the Middle Ages when you talk about the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, you look at their signings, and Howie's done a very good job this offseason. But, you look at all these guys, and free agent, you don't win Super Bowls in March. Is Bryce Huff a one-year wonder, or is he legit? How much does Barkley have left? Can he stay healthy? Devin White benched last year. He's on a one-year contract. Howie's had a lot of luck with these kind of guys who want to prove themselves and get a big contract. Is that what they're going to get from White? So there are questions on every one of these guys. But right now it looks like it's been a good March for Howie.
Has been, and they got a couple of, I'd call them depth guys along the offensive line. Jason Kelsey's going to be tough to be replaced. We had a chance to talk to you last week about Jason and what he brought to the team, his leadership or whatever. With the Eagles adding players positionally, they haven't jumped into the offensive line yet with a guy who you could say, all right, he's going to step in and start. Does that surprise you? Because Howie usually puts so heavy an emphasis on the trenches.
Well, we still have a draft to go here yet, Jody. So, there's some positions I expect them to address there. Cornerback, obviously, offensive line also. Because we don't, right now, can Tyler Steen play right guard? Is he a legit replacement if they move Cam Jurgens over? That's a question that still needs to be answered. We don't even know if Cam Jurgens is a legit center to replace Jason. He did a good job at right guard. Can he make the transition? So, there are a lot of questions there, but I expect them to draft an offensive lineman fairly early, depending on what's available. You saw, I think I saw some of their top 30 visits revealed yesterday or the day before. A lot of them are offensive linemen. The kid from Oklahoma, some others. So it's going to be something they address early on.
They did bring in Matt Hennessy, who's interesting because he's a former third-round pick. Again, we talk about premium picks that haven't lived up to expectations, but in his case, it's been injury-related. He seemed to be on an upward trajectory a couple years ago before the injuries. He's got some versatility. He can play center. He can play guard. Is that an indication to you? Because I've heard a couple people, and I think it's crazy, and I want your thoughts on this, Damo, that don't shut the door on Landon Dickerson playing center. I'm like, hey, come on. They just made him the highest paid guard in history because of his successful play at guard. They're not thinking about moving Lando back to center. You think that door's even slightly ajar?
I mean, in my mind, I think that would be like a last resort if the center position, if Cam Jurgens, suffers an Achilles in training camp and they can't find anybody else to move in there. My feeling is that Stoutland loves his left side right now. I mean, he's got Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata who can crush anyone. They were underused last year, for whatever reason. I don't think that'll happen with Kellen Moore. So I think it would take a lot to make Stoutland want to move Landon Dickerson out of that left guard spot.
Damo, do you know anyone who knows someone who knows someone who knows Kellen Moore that you've been able to get a question through to? Because we still haven't heard from Kellen Moore. When did the Eagles name as their offensive coordinator? And we all sit here and speculate on what's going to happen. And the guy who's actually going to be calling plays hasn't officially been introduced here in Philadelphia. So I'm just wondering if you've got any third-hand source information on what Kellen Moore is going to do this year.
No, this is stupid. It's really stupid. 90% of the teams, when they hire new coordinators, introduce them to the media fairly soon after they're hired, or at the combine or somewhere where they can have a quick back and forth with reports.
Like yesterday with Saquon Barkley being there answering questions. Kellen Moore was probably sitting upstairs in an office listening to what Saquon had to say. But God forbid he come down and actually talk to the media who could then relay the information to Eagle fans.
Well,
I don't know who's pulling the strings in that organization.
I think Damo. I think
it's stupid. I mean,
it is stupid. To that person who shall remain nameless, it is stupid. These are veteran guys. Last year I gave that certain person a little bit of rope, and I said, well, the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. They hired guys late. It's young coordinators. This time, Vic's been around since 1943. Kellen Moore is a veteran coordinator. They know how to handle this stuff. It's stupid. Yes, that's a perfect explanation. Why?
Take Vic, for instance. First time I talked to Vic was 1984.
I know.
You got his cell phone number, and they won't make him available to the media. It's just it's just an idiotic. You remember Nick his first year? I forget. There was some inconsequential thing he didn't want to tell the media about because he thought they would have an advantage.
Competitive advantage. Nick plays that card a lot.
Yeah, he does. He does play that card. But I that probably is the card they're playing with because Nick is still here. Yeah, he believes other coaches are lazy and that they don't use every avenue available. But yet you got 1984, you said, Damo. So what do we got? 40 years of film on Vic Fangio. We got 6 or 7 on Kellen Moore. everybody's got if you got $99 of disposable income, you can go learn about Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore. Watch any game they've coordinated. It's unbelievable.
That concerns me from the standpoint of, if they think they're fooling other teams this way, are they not looking at film of, you know,
maybe self-scout. Yeah, maybe that. Maybe that'll be helpful. So the top three, I gave this question to Andrew Jacek, our first guest. I'll give it to you. As far as the big three, I guess we'll call them. So Saquon, Bryce Huff, CJ Gardner-Johnson, who is supposed to talk today. That'll be interesting if that comes off. Impactful, most impactful from top to bottom, those three. Who do you think's more important in the group? They're all important, but just put them in order.
Well, I mean, Huff's to be determined, because we don't know if he's going to be on the roster with Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick. If they're back, if neither one is traded, it lessens, the need for Huff to play as many.
Well, I'll say this, Damo, they ain't paying him $17 million to be a third down situational edge rusher.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be on the field. So
he is, but I mean, it's all about sacks. I mean, hell, we don't. He's never been asked to set the edge. So I mean, there are things that he still has to prove, no matter how much money he's making. But I mean, he's an excellent pass rusher, and you look at everybody they've brought in defensively. Devin White, I mean, he's an excellent, one of his strong points is he's an excellent, one of the better blitzing linebackers. Even the kid they signed from New Orleans, the linebacker, his strength is he can play edge rusher. So it's they want to get back to 50, 60 sacks, and they're bringing in as many guys that can help them with that as possible, which is why I'm really I just can't. I mean, maybe they let Reddick and Sweat go. I mean, I'm almost certain at least one will be back, and probably both, but who knows? Barkley, I think as they reset their defense here, they're thinking, well, we still have to be a strong offense, and which is one of the reasons they were willing to overspend a little bit on Barkley. He gives them a guy who's going to, I mean, we can talk about him as a rusher, but this is a guy that caught 91 passes in his rookie year, averaged like almost 9 yards a catch his second year. He's an excellent pass blocker. Things that are going to help their passing game as well as the run game. I've been meaning to check what his rush on first down, his yards per carry on rush on first down were compared to DeAndre last year. But, so, I mean, he's going to help their offense. He's going to help Jalen. I think right now offensively, everything is geared towards getting Jalen back on track, both mentally and physically.
And it should be, by the way. It should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that way they feel, even if their defense is coming back slow as they rebuild, if they have an offense that can score points, it'll keep them in games. It'll be a lot like 2022 where they outscore teams in the first half and make them play catch up in the second half, where they can just pin their ears back and rush the passer.
All right, Damo, no, the answer is it lies somewhere in the middle, but I'm going to ask you to pick one of two different ends. Yesterday, Jack Stoll signed a one-year contract with the New York Giants. Would you say it's more like Jack who? Or is it more like, how the hell did the Eagles let Jack Stoll get away to the Giants? I get it. The answer is somewhere in the middle. Which is it closer to? Shame on the Eagles for letting it happen, or Jack Stoll? Best of luck. Good to know you. See you later. Bye.
Well, I mean, they re-signed Albert O. They obviously think he has potential. They got Grant Calcaterra. Jack Stoll was he was an okay blocker, and he was an okay pass catcher. Didn't do either one exceptionally well. He was never going to be a guy that made a difference in a game. He was just a solid guy, solid number 2 tight end. I think they want more out of that position, particularly if something happens to Goddard. I would go with the second. I don't think it was a big loss.
Let's talk tampering, Damo, because you know this league and 32 teams tamper. Wink, wink. But it's got to be done in a way. It's like there's honor among thieves sometimes, and there's unwritten rules, and you have to do things a certain way. And if you go outside the realm, you get dinged for it by the NFL. And one of those rules is you cannot contact players during the legal negotiation period. Now, James Franklin went and talked out a turn, and all of a sudden, Mike Florio, who evidently Jody tells me has something against Howie Roseman. I don't know if that's the case, if it isn't the case, but the NFL took notice, and they're looking into the Eagles and tampering. Now, I heard something interesting. I said, they'll just say James misspoke, and that's essentially what Saquon said yesterday, and that'll be that. And I still think that's probably the case. But I was made aware yesterday by a couple people that some people in the NFL are pissed off at the Eagles because they complain when this happens to them. Jonathan Gannon, Jeremy McMullen back in the day. And they're being a little brazen about it recently, whether it's Saquon, Vic Fangio was brought up to me, leaving Miami. Could it be a compilation penalty? And the NFL saying, yo, guys, tone it down. You know the unwritten rules. You think the Eagles are going to get dinged?
I don't think so, John, only because there's no, along with not being able to beat Ohio State and Michigan.
Also poor James Franklin taking shrapnel.
Yeah, he can't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
But still, it's third hand. It's their second hand.
Yeah.
And he's saying that this is, he claims that's what Barkley said to him.
Yeah.
Barkley's going to deny it. So they
already did.
There's no direct proof. And this is kind of, I think the league, and I do think that they're a little pissed off at the Eagles. We saw that with the Dom penalty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think that they would like to put them in their place, but you've got to have a little bit more proof. And also, I don't think they care. They've stretched.
That's what I said.
Tampering back to giving them 3 days, which is kind of stupid because you go those 3 days and all you see is NFL Network and ESPN announcing signings, which are signings, but there's no signature on the contracts. Yeah. So to penalize them for saying something to the player rather than the agent is a really dumb idea. So I'd be surprised if they get penalized.
Yeah, my memory is faltering here, so I'm going to ask you guys to help me. When did they put that in place that you couldn't talk to a player? Because I remember for years, guys would go on free agency tours that they would go from city to city, and who could show them the most love, and the old phrase of don't you dare let him get out of town. Once he gets into town, don't let him get out of town. When did it become during legal tampering? God forbid you talk to someone who's actually going to play football.
Well, you can talk to players on Wednesday when the new league year starts. Right. It's just that it's like a 54-hour window or whatever.
Yeah, that's when those tours you were talking about, Jody, were after the start of the free agency signing period.
Yeah. So the legal tampering thing was it has become bigger. You're right, Dom, because I watched hours of the NFL Network on Monday and Tuesday because there was a new signing every 20 minutes. Somebody else said the guys are on the air with their phones and sending tweets while broadcasting on television. You would think the television is more important, but the guy, hold on, I've got to tweet this first, and then he'll make an announcement on the air, which I think
that is funny, by the way. I saw Rappaport do that. Rappaport's like, oh, hold on, I got to tweet. I'm like, what do you mean, hold on? Yeah, you're on national television.
You guys correct me, but I think the legal tampering period's been in effect, about 5 years?
Yeah, it all runs together. But
whenever that started, that's when no talking to a player.
And by the way, like last year was a perfect example. You could only talk with agents, so the players that represent themselves, you can't talk to them during the negotiation.
No, you can. There's if you don't have an agent of record, you are allowed to talk during the legal tampering.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, because you're essentially the player's the agent in that.
I thought Lamar couldn't talk to teams.
No,
but all right,
he could have.
All
No,
right.
yeah. What's the percentage? Less than 1% of the players who actually represent themselves.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a couple of guys throughout the whole NFL. But yeah, I'm 99% sure they're allowed to talk.
Maybe I misread that. I thought even those guys you couldn't talk to until the start of the new league year. But it's so small a number, it's not really relevant. But I got a lot of Eagles fans down who said DeAndre Swift signed 4 minutes after the window opened. How can they get that done in 4 minutes? Well, yeah, they can't. But nobody cares. Nobody's accusing the Bears of doing anything because they did it the right way. Everybody tampers. Well, you got to do it the right way. You got it. The unwritten rules. It's like the unwritten rules of baseball. There's a bunch of things you don't do. And the Eagles seem to be getting more brazen with those things. They really are. They're getting a little brazen.
Well, you got an owner that's been in the league since '94, so he obviously is feeling his oats. He's been, won a Super Bowl, been to a Super Bowl over the last 6 years. You got Howie, who's Howie's had a chip on his shoulder since he became general manager because people wouldn't consider him a football guy.
Yeah.
I think he likes to kind of, give it to smack people in the back of the head when he gets a chance. So, it's their ideal circumstances for doing some stuff like that.
All right. So the Eagles have made the moves that they've made, Damo. I still think they need another cornerback. And I thought it was telltale, the fact that when Schefter reported that CJGJ was signing with the Eagles, he reported it as safety / nickel corner. They haven't really replaced Maddox yet. And you can't get everything done in free agency. That's why you have the draft. Draft is going to give you players as well. Do you think they've got a defensive backfield move in them yet? Justin Simmons still sitting out there. Do you think there's one more big free agent move for Howie Roseman other than trying to upgrade in the margins?
Could be, but I think what you're going to see is they're approaching the draft as when they're going to address the cornerback position. They got three picks in the first 2 rounds right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if 2 of those picks are on cornerbacks.
Ooh.
I think they want young corners. I don't know what they think right now of Eli Ricks and
Kelly Ringo. I like Kelly Ringo.
One of them might pan out, but I think they want to go get themselves 2 good first and second day cornerbacks that they, assuming they're guys that they like. This is a good cornerback draft, and I don't know how much Slay has left. I don't think it's much. Certainly, James Bradbury is going to be, released post June 1. So it's a position they've got to upgrade. It's possible they could add one in free agency, but I think they're looking at the draft is where they turn.
I admit, and I might be on an island here. I would love to see James Bradbury in this defense, in this Big Fangio defense. I think he'll use him correctly. I think he'll be a strict zone corner. I think he's phenomenal at it. Last year, they were moving him all around. They're forcing him to be out of position. He's in the slot. He's playing left corner when Slay's out. He's moving. They got him in press coverage at times, which was weird considering the deep. Vic is going to have him cover 2, cover 4, cover 6, cover 8. Very rarely, for his speed, his lack of speed can hurt you. The guy's so smart. I'd love to see it, but he'll probably get cut. They'll probably draft a corner and they'll cut him at that point, as you mentioned, post June 1st. But I think he'd have a bounce back season. I really do. I might be the only one, but this is the perfect defensive coordinator for James Bradbury. That's what I think.
You could be right. I just, he was so bad last year.
That's true.
And I think they just need to turn the corner and get younger at corner. So that's why, I think that, and this is the draft to do it because it's so deep in corners. So that's why I think that's the way they're going to go.
And they need to. Well, no, they've got time. They've got the whole lead up to the draft before they make their
Oh,
mind.
by the way, we have a draft trade already. The Minnesota Vikings have acquired the Houston Texans first-round pick, number 23 overall, for a package that includes second-rounders this year and next. Boy, that indicates to me that Minnesota now has 11 and 23. They're going up to get a quarterback. So that's probably what that's about. But yeah, already starting. That just happened. Draft trade already.
Yeah. You package them, you might have a chance at Drake May or Jaden Daniels. Probably not, but
with them, I think it's Drake May or JJ McCarthy because they're a strict Shanahan Kubiak play action offense. Yeah, I would think that.
All right, Dom, I asked this question of Andrew when we had him on earlier. Crystal ball time, big guy. The Philadelphia Eagles backup quarterback in 2024 is going to be who?
To be determined. I think he's still out there somewhere.
That's not that. You shine up that crystal ball. Wipe it off. I asked you to actually come up with a name here, buddy. I could have gone TBD. I need you to get out the
give him Easton Stick. Yeah, hint. You'll get Jody.
Anybody but second Easton Stick. Anybody but Easton Stick, I will accept.
Justin Fields, how's that?
Yeah, that's not.
I'm all right with that.
But go ahead, Jody.
You don't think that's any problem for Jalen Hurts? You don't think, oh my God, they brought in another starting quarterback, that the kid will melt under that kind of scrutiny?
No,
I don't think that.
I don't. I mean, obviously, when they brought in Jalen, drafted Jalen, and Carson was here. I mean, Jalen was at the time was going to be was considered probably they were going to use him as the backup, a gimmick guy, and if
that was great,
person would be available.
Yeah. Remember when they were going to have two quarterbacks on the field at the same time, Damo?
Yeah,
Remember that?
Yeah, Carson completely went. His mind was blown the day as soon as they drafted him. I don't think that would happen with Jalen. I don't know Justin Fields very well. I don't know what his approach would be coming here, but he's in no position to.
And now Jody brought up an interesting point earlier, and I know his feeling. Zach Wilson. Now, Damo, back in the what draft was that? 2021, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
The Eagles really liked Zach Wilson as a player. They love Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
What about Zach? You got to give up probably 7th round pick, maybe get some.
Oh yeah. You'd be paying nothing for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. They liked him. They usually, when they like a guy, they like him for a long time.
Yeah.
No matter how his career goes.
They still like Saquon. 2018. Saquon. 2021. Why not?
I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah, that were. Here's the one nice thing I'll say about Zach Wilson. He's better than Easton Stick. That's all I will say. That's as good as I'm going to go for Zach Wilson.
But a backup quarterback, our buddy Rob Motti reported the Eagles offered Joe Flacco a contract. So does that tell you that, hey, they're getting a veteran? No matter what, it's not going to be Tanner McKay. They're getting a veteran.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they don't want to go into they don't want to have something happen to Jalen in a year when they still think they can make the playoffs and have to go with a kid that has has he thrown any passes last year?
No.
Maybe a couple, whatever.
No, he wasn't even active last year, but looked good in the preseason. So that would be a little nervy. I'd give Howie credit for it if he really loves Tanner McKee as much as he does. So I asked you if they'll have any other free agent signings. If not, they're turning their attention to the draft going forward. They made changes with the offensive and defensive coordinator this year, and how much they had to say with the player acquisition. How much do you think that Fangio and the mysterious Kellen Moore actually have had as far as say goes in free agency? How much do you think they'll have going forward toward the draft?
I think they both had input. I think probably Vic more than Kellen because of his experience and the fact that the defense is the one that needs to be overhauled.
Yeah.
And if you're going to overhaul a defense, you damn well better get pieces that can fit into Vic's scheme.
Yep.
Offensively, offensive line are going to be strictly the domain of Jeff Stoutland. The Barkley thing, I'm sure Kellen Moore had input into. But that's, he probably had a lot less than Vic.
Yeah. At P Damo, make sure you follow Paul on X/Twitter. Read him at the 33rd team, JAKIB Sports in season. Devontae Parker and wide receiver 3. I was alarmed. I knew I told Jody this. He was last when Next Gen Stats compiles their separation statistics last season. Well, I found out yesterday he was last for the past 4 seasons that they've been compiling those numbers. He's not their third receiver, is he? This is not the upgrade.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I think they'll draft somebody. There's a couple guys in this draft that I think would be terrific, are going to be terrific slot receivers in this league. You're going to laugh at the one guy. Oklahoma's got a guy, Bob Stoops' son, who I thought was, I think is going to be the next Hunter Renfrow.
Really?
He's born to be.
By the way, Hunter Renfrow just got cut, didn't he? He's still out there, isn't he? Yeah. Hunter Renfrow?
Could be.
I believe so.
Yeah. So I think a guy like that fits more as your slot guy or your number 3 receiver than Parker, who, like you said, I don't know how much he's got left. And that's another reason why I point to Barkley's ability to catch the ball as far as, how they plan to approach their passing game this year.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be their third wide receiver. I think he's going to be the backup to Smith and to AJ Brett. And when they come off the field, he'll go in, which hopefully is never, because those two guys are that good and they don't get hurt. So have a good time sitting on the bench. Damo, we love bringing you off the bench and bringing you on with us. Thank you for doing it again this week. Love the shirt. We will talk to you again next week, big guy.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, Damo.
33team.com here with us on Birds 365. All right. Running a little late on time. John McMullen, Jody McDonald will come back and put a bow on this show.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac guys, bringing a close to free agency week. I would say thumbs up to the Philadelphia Eagles. If you needed me to put an A+ to F grade on it, I'd probably go B+, if that's me being optimistic. Definitely a B. No worse than a B, but I could go B+ for the Eagles to this point, John. And oh, by the way, it's not like it shuts down because it's the end of the week.
No,
it
does not shut down.
into the week after, and there's still some names out there. Justin Simmons is the big one. Now, you want to get it to an A-? Give me Justin Simmons at safety and tell me you're playing CJ at the slot, and I'd go to an A- or maybe even A for the Eagles if they get Justin Simmons. Don't know if they're going to go there or not. What kind of letter grade would you give Harry Bozeman?
Right now, I have them at a B. And I like your exercise. If you have to go up or go down, if I have to go up or go down from my B, I'm going down.
Down to B-?
I'm going down to B-.
All right, that's where you and I are different. I'll go B with you, but I'll say if I got to move one way, I'd move up to plus rather than back to minus.
And the reason why is because, again, one of the things I've lauded the Eagles for over the years is I tend to understand their decision making. It makes sense to me. There are a couple of times this offseason where the decision making has not made sense to me, and that seems to be a reaction to the collapse and maybe an overreaction to the collapse last season, from my perspective.
Yeah,
so that's why
that's where you and I are different. I almost applaud the Eagles for moving off what is usually their standard operating procedure. That if we need to tinker, if we need to change our thought process and the way we look at things a little bit, we're willing to do that. I think that's more than a plus. That's more a plus than a minus. You think it's like, wait a minute, how he's never done this before.
I think if you have a good process, and the Eagles have proven over a long period of time, they have a good process. A good process, good decision doesn't necessarily guarantee a good result, but the more you do it, the more you stack them. If you have that good process, the more good results you get. I think they got shaken by last year. That's how I look at it.
You think they're in borderline panic mode, huh?
I'm not going to say panic because I get it. I earlier, and God bless the JAKIB Sports social media people, because I'm going to have a hell of a day when I go down to the NovaCare complex. I said Devin White was an abject failure for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they put it up there. And that's what I said. What I should have said is he was an abject failure as a number 5 overall pick. That's what I should have added. And you know how things get. And you gotta explain things in the as the number 5 overall pick, he was an abject failure. He's not an abject failure as an NFL player. He's an NFL player.
5-year starter.
Yeah. He's a disappointment. Certainly from their perspective. When you take somebody at number 5, you want a home run, and you don't want a guy get a prove-it deal after his rookie contract. That's what I meant by that. But I digress. I think the Eagles, and I laud them for the most time. So I'm not gonna go back and say everything they do. No, I got questions over their decision making on a couple of these moves. Not the Huff move. Not the CJ move. A couple of them I'm rock solid on. Others, A little shaky to me.
Yeah, I'm more open-minded to, hey, if we don't have, if they had the golden rule that their way of doing things always ended up one Super Bowl, not like multiple Super Bowls. So I think you need to stay fluid, and I think the Eagles have shown that this year, which is a good thing. All right, brother, I say we do this again all next week. How about you?
Yeah, draft coming closer. We got a big draft trade in the NFL. Free agency rolls on. Still more moves to be made.
And the Mac and Mac guys will be here next week to talk about with you on Birds 365. Have a great weekend, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.